Hello and welcome to Love's Like Hate, everyone, and also isn't really anything different than what I normally do. Love's Like Hate is pretty much just an offset to trailer to film. It's just talking about older films that I didn't see in the theater. So in this case, Universe Reviews and Love Like Hate kind of are coming together because while I'm reviewing it, I am going to be recapping a couple of the events, and there's spoilers abound here. So yeah, it's kind of something I got going on here. I might as well just combine the two, and we're going to be going into much deeper than just the movies themselves. Let's strap in, let's get into this, because this is going to be one hell of a ride. So we are going to be talking about Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. And as you can see, I do not own the films, which is sad on my part. So it's gonna be kind of keeping you in suspense as to if I actually like them well enough or not. But Ash versus the Evil Dead came out, got canceled, and I figured, you know what? Let's talk about this set of films leading to a TV show, because I mean, I think that was pretty spectacular considering the kind of day and age that we live in. We're getting movies that transfer into TV shows and TV shows that transfer into movies, so I said, why the hell not? Keep in mind that I am going to be going into some spoilers for most of these movies, so, I mean, if you haven't seen them, I definitely would come back, but, I mean, in short, see these films. They're so obnoxiously delightful and cheesy. Really, really cheesy. And if anything, I would invite you to comment below, and there we can talk in depth about the Evil Dead trilogy. So, with that said, without further ado, let's dive into this. So, we start off with Evil Dead, and it's 5 college kids looking for a getaway at a rundown cabin for some reason. And no one really talks about why they chose a rundown cabin as a getaway vacation. Whatever happened to a hotel? Not long after they first get there, they start finding things under a trap door that are oddly suspicious, along with an old tape recorder depicting the events that happened prior to these kids visiting there. And a long story short, they play the damn thing, and it's a professor talking about the Book of the Dead briefly sketched by Ash's sister, rather violently, I might add, and physically seen beneath the trapdoor in one of the rooms when Ash and his buddy go down there and look at all this stuff. The professor reads some passages, and of course, it's enunciated just enough for the dead to hear, and it awakes them, and this is where things, you know where this is going to go. However, things don't go south just yet. We do have some downtime with the characters before things go completely south. It is very short-lived, should I say, but Ash's sister, Cheryl, gets a little freaked out, not just by the recording, but everything else. She's a little sensitive to what's going on, and she just darts out of the cabin into the woods, and she gets raped by a tree. And that was really hard to watch. Like, it's like the raping in the woods, and oh my god, the low budget and everything that's going on. What's happening here? Oh my god, let's move on. And after she recovers from that, and then she runs back in, she tries to get Ash to take her back to the next town. They can't leave, so they come back, and then this is where things get nuts. Like I said, I'm not going to cover everything, but my god, this is just pure insanity after that scene. And just like, oh my god. Like, one scene tries to outdo the other by being more and more crazy, and it never lets up. For instance, after Ash's sister is unfortunately raped, she then suddenly gets possessed, and one by one, everyone falls victims to maybe one, maybe more demons in that thing, because, like, everyone, not even Ash, is safe. But the makeup on these actors are astonishingly well done for the time, and on top of that, they just perform really well, but it's ridiculously cheesy. Very, very corny. And I kind of look at it this way. For demons, for all intents and purposes, demons are evil, malicious, ugly beasts that intend to do more than just insidious schemes to human. But lately in Hollywood, they are very secretive, cautious, never seen, but they can possess others. In Evil Dead, Sam Raimi was like, these demons can be all that and then some. All these demons manifest in one way or another, and each of Ash's friends that kind of nearly have their own personality. They're very comical, over the top, scary sometimes, and dopey too. And to me, I just feel like that's what a demon should be like. Freaking annoying, hard to get rid of. Oh my god, that just reminds me of the deaths in this film. They're out of this world. Just enough for it to be watchable, but you can't help but exclaim, "Oh my god," at the screen because it's so overblown. Seriously, I swear one of the girl demons, who I think was Ash's friend's girlfriend, at least took 5 minutes to die after she was brutally mutilated. For fake blood pouring out of her and every orifice that she had, and then suddenly, like, white stuff comes out of the nubs of the wrists and stuff. Why is milk coming out of these bodies? Like, why? Why? And don't even get me started on the moans and groans and screams and cries the demon makes while dying. It's almost just too much, but just enough. And I'm inclined to mention how joyously short this movie is, but the scenes are so long, extended takes of the mayhem being conveyed in front of you that oh my god, it's so obnoxiously violent, but it's amazing on how low budget everything is and how much of it all worked. And even, I should say, like, the dialogue, how minimal is present. Like, there's talking throughout the film, but if you collect it all together, I'd say it takes up maybe a good half an hour, 45 minutes of the film out of an hour and a half runtime. It's a lot of moans and groans and cries and screams, like I said, and it's a lot of showing, not telling. A lot of action rather than explanation as to why all of this is going on. After many blood-spraying scenes later, we get to the ending, and to tell you the truth about the ending, it's probably my absolute favorite ending of any film, even non-horror. Spoilers, of course, if you haven't seen it, but we cut to this leaf on the ground and nothing happens for like 5 seconds. Then until finally the camera comes to life and starts moving from behind the cabin towards the cabin, crashes through every door, straight through the front door, and right into Ash, leaving his fate unknown. To me, that is an ending I would come up with, and I always wanted to make that kind of stuff pay off, and it pays off here. Like, it made me wonder, like, oh my god, what happened to him? What was that? That was brilliant, and I loved it. I watched it beforehand a long time ago, and I watched it again, and I still love it to this day. But in the end, after recounting a few tidbits and such, it comes down to, what did I think of the film? I think, well, if you haven't already known after every last bit of repeated vocabulary adjective I made, I think this was a wonderfully made, low-budget, literally, film with decent scares, creative makeup effects, and a story fully there, but was more interested in telling you how chaotic it all is. And I gotta say, I really, really loved Evil Dead. Simple as that. Now we're gonna take the time to just jetson right into Evil Dead 2. Wow. Just wow. This movie is nuts. Never a dull moment as it reboots itself, recaps the events differently, bringing Ash back to the moment where he is attacked by this unseen entity. From there, it doesn't let up. Even when you get these new people coming in looking for the professor, and I mean, all I could think of is, oh, look at that! More people come to die! Nevertheless, this movie is more or less just a good solo performance with Bruce Campbell, and maybe a good chunk of the film, like a good 30 minutes, is just him being tormented and freaking out and laughing and crying, and it's when these random victims come in, it does go into natural kill them off mode, but there's a part where it becomes like unexpected. Like, you kind of see everything coming up until a point, and then you're just like, what? Oh, okay, this is taking a turn. I didn't see that coming, and it never really dives too much into a cliche where you're calling it, and then it just goes, okay, here's something new, and then when you're going, okay, I see where you're going with this. Nope, it does something else, and then, whew, still didn't expect it. It was very, very interesting, and I should mention that Annie, one of the last people to survive in all of this. I mean, everyone just boom, 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 gone. Annie, who's the last one, is actually the daughter to the professor, and she becomes a key moment towards the end. Other characters, like I said, they're very disposable, but memorable in their own right, to be fair. But the real highlights are Ash's performance by himself, and then with the others. And Annie, I would say the actress, who I don't know the name of, I think she did pretty well too. Mainly by himself though. The ghosts, the demons, the entities, all kinds of stuff tortures him, and like, oh my god. He had to come off his own hand to get rid of one of the demons that ended up possessing his hand. And in the meantime, the demon kept hitting him over the head with every available inanimate object. And eventually he had enough and he had to cut it off, and wow! Just wow. They took the more serious natured first movie with a dark comedic tone and shaped it into a lighter hearted, semi predictable conflict with less gore between people and more creature based turmoil. Keeps it from getting stale, but oh my god, does it get ridiculous. Like, I remember having to watch this a long time ago, just as much as I watched the first one a long time ago, and I had to stop a bit midway because it wasn't until after I just wanted to know what happened to Ash when he was just taken away by that unseen entity. And then after that, it's about the time where the new people are introduced. I kind of just stopped because I was like, I know where this is going, never mind. And then watching it fully this time, oh boy, I'm glad I watched it now than then, because that would have been crazy, and I probably wouldn't have handled it. I would say the ending is where it just flips everything on its head. Ash is sucked into a portal and is sent back into medieval times, where he suddenly becomes a hero of a demonic attack. And if I didn't know this already going in, because Army of Darkness being so popular, this would have made me laugh, confused, and really weirded out by the sudden change in direction. But Raimi really makes it work, and Bruce Campbell really makes it work. I'm not even kidding. Anyone else doing this, that radical change would have just been like, nope, can't handle it, and we would have been like, okay, some of us would have wanted to see where it went, but now we never will. This time, since he could get away with it in that time period, we just see this radical change of him turning into this, and I'm like, it makes too much sense. Evil Dead 2 still has the same story and same conflict, but it seems to be interested in having more fun during the chaos. But they hint at a deeper meaning to all of it, which I'm not even sure if Army of Darkness is going to even explore it, but we'll see. And to kind of cap it on, it's like, I loved Evil Dead 1, but with Evil Dead 2, due to its odd direction into more silliness and minor predictability, I've just found myself liking it, not necessarily loving it, than the first. And for that, of course, as you can see, I'm going to give Evil Dead 2 like it. Now, of course, it's time to get into Army of Darkness. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things, Jack and shit. Jack just left town. You want to talk about an awesome good time with self-awareness and campy goodness galore? Well, get through two semi-separate films, one leading into the other in much different ways than the last. One more horror-esque and one more campy and comedic tone, just to catch up to what Army of Darkness is all about? Yeah, do it. Who wants some? Who's next? You want a little? Talk about a film that went so far away from what it once was. Dear Lord, it's hard to even imagine that this movie started off as a low-budget, scary thrill ride with interesting camera angles and movements and subpar, special effects that worked for the film at the time, to straight into medieval epic horror, stopping an undead from getting a book that the dead need. Oh, and Ash needs it too. Groovy. That's basically the plot. I mean, you want to talk about yet again another self-aware rom telling another story in a silly fashion, having a good time, and not giving two shits if it's going over the top or not? Yeah, it's this film. Basically, all of these films have been absolutely silly. Just one was more serious than the last one, and Army of Darkness is no exception. And I really had a good time with this film. I really, really enjoyed it. It's not Evil Dead, no lie. And it's hard to imagine at this point that it came from the first film to even the second film. But these movies nearly act like standalone films to be sequels to one another, while I would say, think about this for a second, if you edit it just right, you could marry all three films together into one big epic. Take The Evil Dead, for instance. When the unseen entity attacks Ash, cut out the quick recap from Evil Dead 2 just as Ash is attacked, and you can see that just flow right on in. Then take out the ending of Evil Dead 2 where he suddenly becomes the hero of the medieval land and you know, attacks the demon and whatnot. Just cut that out and go straight into Army of Darkness when he falls. Seriously, it all flows. At least in my mind it does. And you get 1 3+ hour epic. And Army of Darkness really does have more of a story in this one, where the first two kind of just merely touched on it. Army of Darkness went, okay, so here's where the lore really began. Here's where it all started, and here's the same thing, just at a different setting, and you're getting more context than a lot of the crazy stuff. While the first one seemingly introduces you to the victimizing aspect of it, the second one really opens the door, literally, to the wonders. Third gives you the full-on story as to why all of this is even happening in the first place. However, while a ton of fun, this movie does suffer from having too much fun. Some jokes don't exactly land depending on who you are, because you're going to sit there being perplexed as to why certain things are happening in the first place. Like Ash growing another version of himself from his own body. Why did that happen? Tiny little versions of him tormenting him in the windmill? Why? just why? Why? They're hilarious, no doubt, and a ton of fun, but there are certain things that are just never explained to the point of its inception. The movie is told from Ash's point of view, so as he's telling the story, recounting it to someone, I can imagine that he doesn't even know, and he just kind of has to roll with it. This movie has an odd obsession with facial humor too. Ash has to go and find the Necronomicon, and there are 2 more books than expected. He has to choose one. One of them sucks him right into the book, and he gets out, and his face is just elongated, and shakes his head vigorously, and so it's less elongated, and then does it a few more times, and then it comes back down to normal with just one expression to that odd event. Whoa. It's just crazy, folks. Let me tell you, oh my god, this movie is nuts. And then he like falls into a graveyard with bone hands poking at his face, and he like fights with them as they poke at him. And all in all, this third chapter in the weird, crazy trilogy is just, well, weird and crazy. But it also had a lot of fun being what it is, and even though I said that pretty much 10 times already, just to cut to the chase, I loved Army of Darkness. And just so you know, if I ever get my hands on any of them, they would have been sitting right here. Moving forward, we will be jumping into Ash vs. Evil Dead. And if you're wondering why I'm skipping the remake, sequel, reboot, well, while I really enjoyed it, it doesn't seem to have a purpose within the history of Evil Dead, unfortunately. Not that I'm aware of, at least. And if at all some point, if I'm watching the film, the show, and they say, hey, this is actually from that rebooted Evil Dead, I will bring my happy ass straight back here reviewing Evil Dead, the reboot, remake, sequel. But it's a more serious version of what the first film could have been, with more serious look into why teens would go into an abandoned cabin and what it would look like if demons started to pick them off one by one. The practical effects are really good, and the story looked promising for sequels, but ultimately no avail. It's this good standalone film, and unfortunately a failed reboot, and I did like it. Wait a second, did I just review it anyway? Oh. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this little reaction recap type thing, I will be happy to do more of them. Please give this video a like, and I will continue doing that. It's been a while since I've actually done universe reviews. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'm going to get you more videos in the future. Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1 is going to be 7 minutes or less coming at you here in the next week. Until next time.